Davey Gravy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
We're excited. I've been friends with Davey for probably over a decade now, and it was actually Sociality that brought us together. Scott had a big, wild idea 10 years ago to bring a bunch of creative people together, and we found ourselves in a room with some mutual friends, and
that was almost 10 years ago today.
Actually, yeah. Yeah, we did our first event together May 3rd or 4th or 5th. It might have been literally this window of time 10 years ago. So yeah, me and Davey hanging out 10 years since we first kind of discovered community intersecting, I think, creativity together. So
very wild. A lot has changed since then.
Yeah, so much. So we're excited. We just wrapped up a mastermind session with Davey with the Sociality membership last week, and we had an amazing session just unpacking your approach to systems thinking and processes and kind of the way you do creativity, but in a very unique kind of systematic way, something I think admired from you probably for the last 5+ years as we've kind of been on this journey together. But for those that don't know, you're just kind of getting introduced to you for the first time. Why don't you give everybody just a background of kind of what you do, what your kind of creative mediums are? And
so my creative journey started a long time ago. I knew from an early age that I wanted to do something creative. I knew I didn't want to go to university and get a degree. I knew I didn't want to become a tradesman. And so after high school, I went to art college, which was the obvious choice. And during that time, I tried a whole bunch of different mediums: pencil, paper, painting, sculpture, collage, cross-stitching. And I worked some creative jobs after high school. I got a taste of what creativity in the real world kind of looks like, and I wanted something a little bit more. I'm very thankful photography came into my life because that definitely meant a creative outlet that I was looking for. And so since I found photography, that's led me to videography, that's led me to short form video, that's led me to social media, and along with the back end of that, which is learning how to manage your time, learning how to write properly, learning how to
taxes, finances,
all of that fun stuff that
with people.
Photography and videography has definitely been the thing that stuck the longest and something that I'm still doing to this day. That's
amazing. You've had some pretty cool, I think such a diversity of clients and stuff. I mean, you were sharing when we did our mastermind session, just you sold cross stitch, hip hop cross stitch pieces to Skrillex, all the way to doing tourism videos for Tahiti.
And it still continues today. I'm still doing tourism stuff. I'm doing corporate stuff. I'm doing short form videos. Sometimes I'm working on big movie sets where I'm just pulling focused, doing behind the scenes. Other times I'm just shooting stuff on my iPhone. I really have no idea what I'm doing day to day.
We see so many creatives that are pushed to, do one specific thing, and you've actually thrived almost as a generalist. I would say you have a niche to an extent, and you've definitely found a pocket, but it's almost your productivity and your efficiency and the way that you can execute and turn things over that's made you invaluable for the teams that you work with or the clients you work with. I mean, even working with you on stuff, it's if I bring Davey in to do something, it's I'm seeing the output next day kind of thing. And that's pretty rare in this day and age. To tee this whole conversation up, I mean, the big problem that we wanted to address with this and try and support you guys was the fact that we see so much reactivity in the creative industry. And I don't know, Davey, you want to speak to that? I mean, I see you as proactive, but
I've noticed when working with other creatives that they're reactive to a lot of situations. And that's not bad all the time. Life is busy. Clients are throwing stuff at us all the time. We can't control everything. But I think in a lot of the aspects that we are in control of, when we wake up, how we use our time, planning for projects, I think we should be proactive as possible. I think a lot of us got into being creative because there's nobody breathing down our necks. We have a lot of freedom in what we can create, and there's no rules. And because there's no rules, there's no accountability and there's no structure. And because of that, I think our output can sometimes suffer from that. I've worked a couple creative jobs in the past where I need to be accountable and I need to deliver stuff on time. And that's taught me some skills that require me to be proactive. And after moving to working for myself, I've tried to adapt those skills to anticipate a problem before it happens and build a framework to address those problems.
I think we do gain a lot of experience from the people we work with and the systems we're around and we're in. I know like a huge struggle for me has been like I come out of a whole mixture of like nonprofit background and then like, the more of a community focus and all these different things and some business too, but honestly working a ton of kind of really people focused. And the struggle in that for me has been a lot of times like good systems don't necessarily exist in those spaces. But you've made some intentional decisions, I think, at different stages, even in your creative career. I've noticed, you jumped in and worked at a tech startup for a year. Mm-hmm. You've worked in, different situations where you were required to work in a team. Did that help?
Joining these large companies, they have a lot of systems set in place. And I realized that it accelerated our productivity and made the best use of our time. Some of the other companies I've worked in, because they've been some newer ones, myself and my teammates have had to build some of the structures from scratch. So that's been a great learning experience of how to adapt these and pass these on to other people.
It was a framework that you shared in our mastermind session, and you talked about dreams, goals, habits kind of over here, and then systems kind of being this connector to all of that. And that was one of the things you shared that really resonated with me, because I think as a creative person, I spend a lot of my time probably looking at way ahead. I think sometimes it's foggy, and I think we could make a case for how important it is to clarify our goals. And we usually have dreams. Sometimes we get that into a bit of a goal or, let's say resolution or something at the beginning of the year that, we set out to do. And, then we're reading books like Atomic Habits or these, like all the encouragement to then get that into your day to day. But what you touched on was just that the missing gap for most people and a lot of creatives, I think, is systems that kind of bridges the gap. I think practically is where the rubber hits the road. And I know for me too often, I've read so many books on productivity, watched lots of videos done, but there's this doing and like this knowing and doing gap for me that has been a struggle. That I know like you've jumped into YouTube over the last kind of year plus, something that I know has been a dream of yours. You've seen progress and I've watched you consistently show up. You aren't a YouTuber historically. You're not somebody I would say, maybe even finds that it comes naturally, right?
No, it's terrifying for me. It is a struggle.
Like we've probably have friends that we look at and like, you should be on YouTube. You should be in front of camera. But
oh yeah, that's not me.
That's not you, right? Like you're somebody that's had to like discipline yourself to show up and be that. And I think it's a real encouragement for those who maybe want to do something like that, but are super afraid or there's that barrier. In this framework, obviously, like there was a dream there to pursue that more. What's that looked like practically and where do systems kind of play?
I've been doing this for 2 years now. And what has allowed me to put out so many videos is by putting this into my calendar to create a schedule, to create a framework, to create templates so I can get this done. If I just said, this is my goal and I just hope for the best, it's not going to happen. My life is busy. I've got client work. I've got family commitments. All of our lives are busy. One of the easiest things that I've done to get stuff done is to just create a checklist. Show up on a Saturday, record a video, edit the video, publish the video. Once I've got a checklist, I can kind of just sit back and not worry about what the next step in the process is. And once I've established a checklist for one video, I can duplicate that for the next video. And I can also create checklists for my entire year. A lot of the work we do as creatives, we do over and over and over. We repeat a lot of the same work. Yeah. So if you can cut out some of that work and a lot of the guesswork, you can move faster and you don't need to repeat your work. So I've built myself templates for every YouTube video that I do so that I don't need to rewrite all of this stuff and I can just copy and paste stuff into my YouTube video.
What's top to bottom that process? You're using Notion, I think, right?
Yeah, I'm using Notion. Usually I've got to find a topic for a video. So in Notion, I've got a page for all my brainstorming. So I'll intentionally add time into my calendar to brainstorm on a Monday morning or a Tuesday morning. And I'll sit down for 45 minutes and brainstorm. I'll refine that into videos that I enjoy doing and the audience is going to like. And I add them to a task board. And on a Wednesday or Thursday, I'll go through those. I'll try to write out a script, try to write out some talking points for those videos. And the best idea that comes out of those will eventually be made into a video. So inside all of these pages that I'm writing my scripts in, they're all templates. It has a spot to insert the title. It's got a description already built into there. It's got my keywords, and it's got prompts for me to write this stuff out, because I'm writing these week after week after week, and I don't need to come up with original ideas over and over. And by doing this, I can, on a Saturday when it comes to record my videos, I can usually record them chronologically because everything is written out and there's no guesswork. And so by doing all this pre-production up front, more often than not, I'm prepared when it comes time to shoot the thing. And the shooting is actually the shortest part of the process.
Self-admittedly, I'm a creative person that gets very caught up in probably a mix of perfectionism and distraction and procrastination, probably for a bunch of different reasons. And there can be the tendency to not, for me at least, to not use a system until the system is really perfect, or to repeat work, or to be like, I don't have a template. I don't have time to make a template. Like, were those templates or checklists or the things, is this stuff you've just been building as you go? Start somewhere?
Yeah, don't wait till it's perfect. You probably already know what you're trying to solve, and you've probably started working on it already. And I would say there's probably somebody who has solved that problem. I don't think your problems are that unique. Maybe you need a to-do checklist, and somebody has probably built a better one. So I'd say jump on YouTube. I'd say to ask your friends to find a system that they use and works. Start implementing it right away and refine it as you go. It's probably not going to be perfect for you, but you won't know what is going to work or what's not working for you until you give it a try. Add the elements that work for you and remove the elements that don't.
The minute you move from somebody else being responsible for your time to you being responsible for your time, it, like you touched on it earlier, it's that accountability piece. And it's also hard because you don't have one boss anymore. If you're a full-time or part-time creative person, or you're an entrepreneur and you're working on, you kind of have like a few or dozens or hundred, like lots of little bosses, and lots of people clamoring for your time and attention. And that, I know personally, that's been a massive struggle for me as a creative person, as an entrepreneur. It's just like juggling all of that. And I think that for a lot of years, the systems have been a bottleneck in trying to deal with it all, because you've got notes with tasks over here, and you've got stuff everywhere. And then you go into a meeting with a client or somebody, and it's like, oh, you jotted this over here, and you've got your calendar here. And you just gave us the example of asking friends or like really sharing. And I think that's what we're trying to do with this episode, is almost be like, hey, we're going to be your friends here, just sharing what's been working for us in real time. And I know for me, Davey, you've been really helpful, like just watching your process and looking at others and going, okay, these tools work. And if we were to kind of just lay out 80-20, the like nuts and bolts, like foundation of, you can add color and add everything else, but if you've just got the anchor when it comes to time management and projects, and what have those been, and what are the tools that you've loved kind of most in those kind of, if you were to say start here? Or
I think our time can get used up by all of these flashy tools or small things that don't make a large difference. For myself, I think it's having a project management system. And right now mine lives in Notion. I'm working on 5, 10, 15, 20 projects at the same time, and they're at all different steps of the process. And by having everything written down out of my head, so I don't need to remember where I'm at with anything, has been very, very useful. A task list or a to-do list for what you should be working on day to day or tomorrow or next week, super valuable. Mm-hmm. I prefer not to keep one on paper because I can kind of forget and it's not with me all the time. And so having a digital one for me, especially one that reminds me and prioritizes what's important, has really upped my productivity. As well as a calendar, just putting things into your calendar, game changing. I'm not the biggest on time blocking, but sometimes when I get stuck, I just throw in a 2-hour, 3-hour work period, and at least I get something done. On top of that, just putting your deadlines, when the drafts are going to be due, when you should be working on everything, super, super valuable. And I've seen a connection from friends who are late on stuff, aren't the best with their time. They're also the ones that don't use a calendar. And it doesn't really matter what calendar you use, just pick one and use that as a map or a guide for how you should be structuring your day.
You're not you don't live and die by the time block.
No.
I've struggled a little bit, to be honest, with time blocking. I've attempted it. I've read all the things, but I find if I don't get really specific with the task down, quite specifically that I'm working on in that time block, I just find it just is time that can get distracted or taken pretty easily. How do you prioritize those? When you block off 2 to 3 hours to get your stuff done?
In TickTick, which is a task list I use, when I add a task to my task list, I choose the day that it's going to happen, and I can also prioritize how important that task is. At the beginning of the day, when all of the tasks pop up, I reevaluate all the tasks and see which is the most important for my day. Editing a podcast may not be the most important thing anymore. So I just re-rank those to accommodate what's due at the end of the day or the most pressing. And then the way that I get these tasks done is I schedule times throughout my day. And lately I've been using a Pomodoro technique, which is you just set a timer for, usually I do 20 minutes and I just put my phone on do not disturb, put my head down, and I just work until that timer goes. And more often than not, I work through that timer. And when the timer goes off, you're supposed to take a 5-minute break. I usually stand up and stretch my legs, grab a drink of water, and then set the timer again. And I'm not perfect for getting all of my tasks done every single day, but usually 80-90% of the tasks get completed. And many of the tasks get moved to the next day. I try to schedule my tasks so that they have a little bit of room for error, but stuff gets done at the end of the day.
I think what you touched on there is helpful because the nature of our work, we're recording this podcast at a different time than we planned today because your shoot got canceled this morning. And that's another much more normal occurrence in working for yourself, working for multiple clients, working as a creative entrepreneur. Things change. And so the ability to adapt and respond while still, it's react, but in a proactive way. It's that's what we're trying to achieve here.
And I think by working with many clients and working for yourself, things probably change more than if you just have a 9-to-5. I think that you may need to be even more prepared and have some sort of system to get your tasks done than the average non-creative person.
I completely agree. I've found, especially the more things that get added onto your plate, the more organized you have to be. I'm feeling that big time in this season. And one question for you, does a weekly review or kind of monthly review or any sort of review process play into your whole approach as it relates to kind of keeping this maybe goes into the dreams, goals kind of segment, and then just evaluating your systems? And
I've really been looking to incorporate that into my monthly, yearly system. Every year I get a little bit better at this. I feel like I'm so much better than I was a year or two ago, but I still feel like I have so far to go. So for the past few years, I actually haven't really set many concrete goals. And the past 2 years I have, and I've wrote them down. They're trackable, they're attainable, and I've built systems to ideally achieve them. What's missing for me is review periods throughout the year. So I have set quarterly review periods to look at those and see how I'm doing and if I need to readjust them. And I've blown past a couple of them. I'm not perfect. Maybe next year. Actually, you know what? Not maybe next year. Maybe the next
quarter.
Our goals change. Our dreams change, and that's fine. I just want to make sure that the work that I'm doing day to day, that compounds on the work week to week, is going to get me to my end goal.
I think it's refreshing to hear that from you, to be really honest. Here's the areas that I'm still working on. Because I think so often we look at all the productivity experts and the gurus, and everybody's kind of putting out this almost perfection. Like, I don't know about you, but I'll follow different people that are given frameworks and tools for doing all this stuff, and it's great. And in a world where there isn't, like, in a vacuum, I'm like, I would love to have my morning startup ritual, my workday shutdown ritual, my like weekly review, my monthly review, my quarterly offsite, my like annual like couple days to reset and set all the intentions. And on one hand, yeah, it's possible. And I could look at myself and go, the only reason you're not doing it is you, and beat myself up and, or whatever, why we don't do the things we do. But the reality is life happens, and life's complicated, and there's a lot going on in all of our lives. A lot of fires we're putting out and unexpected stuff that is out of our control. And so
what I would like to do to solve some of that moving forward is build some accountability or a community to do those things, because we do have similar goals. We want to make sure we've got our morning routines, make sure that we're exercising, make sure that taking the steps to achieve our goals. And I've just been thinking about, how can I include friends in this? How can I include accountability, whether it's just texting or meeting up with people, so that we can do these together? It's a lot easier to just like click and drag a task to a different day, but it's a lot more difficult to text a friend and say, hey, today's not going to work. Maybe we should just cancel this altogether.
That's really good. I think what you're hitting on is just how the lack of accountability that most of us have, because a lot of creative work is inherently lonely, or it's often solo work, yeah, there's team stuff, there's work we do with others, but good chunk of it is spent often us in front of a computer or a screen just getting it done. And the tendency can be, when you're facing burnout or you're tired or you're exhausted or you're overwhelmed, it's like it's a whole lot easier to just let distraction hit, or procrastination, or any of it, than I think push through, stop, rest, have that support system. What's the community piece kind of played for you in all of that?
I think I've been very fortunate that right off the bat, when I picked up a camera, creating was in community. When we picked up a camera, every Saturday we went out to the mountains. We did our best to post as many photos as we could online. And when we got jobs, we would pass the jobs on to our friends, and we'd try and invite them along. And so I've been very spoiled that my brain thinks that we should be creating in community and sharing with our friends, and treat this as a very social job that we have.
So it's been kind of a fabric for you since day one.
Absolutely. And I find it interesting hearing people I look up to online, friends in other cities, that they don't have that. And I do hope that for them. And it's tricky. You need to get out of your comfort zone. You need to get out of your house. Sometimes you need to get a little bit behind on your projects because you're catching up with a friend. I think it's an investment into the future and longevity if you can have a community around you that supports you and keeps you accountable, even when it's not easy.
I think what you're getting at is actually such a critical missing piece that we lose sight of when we're just talking the how. Like, you've been sharing a little bit about your process, even just with projects and time management and getting down and doing the work. But if your mental health is kind of a mess, and you're tired and exhausted and burnt out and feeling stressed, and that's all pent up and that's like locked up inside of you, willpower is not enough.
No, not at all.
You can have all the systems and all the great tools at your disposal, but it's going to be really hard. Like, it helps. It sure helps. Like, I'll first of all say, if you've put the systems in place, it definitely makes it easier to ride those seasons out than if you don't. But at the same time, it's like, I think what you're touching on is just so, so important. And that's we weren't made to do all this stuff alone.
No, not at all.
I don't think I think we need time away and pause and reflection and kind of looking at everything and evaluating each one of those buckets that you talked about, the dream bucket, the goal bucket, the systems bucket, the habits, and looking at how all of those four kind of intersect. And we need some time and attention on each one. But I can honestly say in my own life, like through relationship with people like you and others, it's like you glean little nuggets and things. And then it's also the friends and the relationships and the people in your life that you go to when it all falls apart. Mm-hmm. Right. Like I think that's the piece we don't talk about enough. And for you in that space, like, is that been a pretty important piece of your journey? Like the balance piece.
If there's a creative meetup in your city, especially if it's a Socality one, get off your butt, close your laptop and go to it.
Yeah.
I took a huge risk showing up to the first Socality event. I am very shy. I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to be the center of attention. And I was really worried about what it was going to be like in this setting with all of these new people. And I met so many normal, cool, very creative people who were very similar to me. And it completely changed my life since then. Online, just reach out to people, comment on people's stuff, shoot them a direct message if you see them doing something really cool or if you connect to them. Like that goes so far and you're going to stand out so much more than anyone else. And you may create a friend from that.
Yeah, you just don't know where those friendships will lead. And like the support system that might come from that. I think even in the highs and the lows, like it's like you and I have grown really close over the years, like, but I never expected that when, when we just both showed up with different backgrounds to the same event effectively. So I think invest in that along with investing into your systems and your own personal self-work.
I think it's really important to have some people around you that do similar work to you and understand your struggles, and people that can be encouraging when you're not doing so well and that you can encourage with the things that you've learned in your own journey.
A couple final just questions for you as we kind of bring this to a close. And thank you so much. Honestly, I know we've kind of bumped around a whole wide range of topics, but I think if anything, I want people who are struggling on the feeling productive, feeling on top of things, feeling behind, to know that like we're all in this together. Mm-hmm. And a massive one for me, something I'm really passionate about, and that it's this idea of just rest and recovery and the balance between work and being productive and doing all the things and then being off. You work for yourself. You've got all these different client bosses, your own YouTube like dreams, all this stuff, personal dreams, goals. What's the on and off look like right now?
Having a partner that doesn't do the same thing as you has been very helpful for me. So I want to spend time with my wife, and to do that, I need to stop my work in the evenings. I chose this line of work because I love it. I could work all night and all through the weekend, but I do my best. I set a timer to just close my laptop at 5:30, go home, do dinner, do the evening stuff, and rest and spend time with the people that I love. It doesn't happen all the time, and some nights are not the most re-energizing thing, but I'm trying to build that habit that evenings and weekends, the work doesn't happen. In that time off, I'm trying to do the things that I love. I don't totally know what I love doing because the thing that I love doing became my job. And so I'm trying to find ways to do that outside of work. And I'm trying to find some other hobbies and things that I enjoy. And I'm having a hard time figuring that out. I don't know if it's tennis. Do I want to learn how to surf? Do I want to learn a completely different skill? I don't know. But on my evenings and weekends, I'm trying to read. I'm trying to take out a different kind of camera and shoot photos just for myself. I'm trying to spend time with friends, go to different restaurants that I want. But it all starts with trying to set the habit to turn off and to slow down for myself, because I don't want to burn out, and I want to set up a sustainable system that is not going to let me burn out because I have scheduled in time to slow down. I'm not perfect with it, but I haven't burnt out yet. and I don't feel like it's coming soon. I love what I do, and I do my best to rest.
Well, from the opposite side, as someone who has burnt out multiple times, I think that the themes and the stuff we're talking about are really, really critical to either bringing yourself out of that place, which is where I've been at different seasons and probably even in this season coming kind of out of that. Or if you're not, preventing it from like hitting that point, because as Davey said, even when you're like in love with what you do, it's very easy for it to just take over your life. I want to close two kind of just like resource value kind of things. One, we touched on a few, but just high level, list off kind of your favorite tools, productivity stuff right now that you're using on a day-to-day. And then second, what are some of the creators or like resources or people you're watching or you're looking at, whether it's YouTube channels or books or anything like that, that you're finding is really kind of been useful for you in this season as you continue to kind of build these systems and processes in your own life?
I have so many, so it's difficult. It's difficult to narrow it down to a few. I'll just list them off in no particular order. If you're not in control of your inbox, get rid of all of the clutter in there, all of the subscriptions, all of the stuff that if it disappeared, you'd still be okay with it. I use something called Unroll Me. You plug in your email address, it's going to show you who has your email and who's sending you stuff, and you can mass unsubscribe to stuff very quickly. I think it only works in the US and Canada, so if you're outside of that, I think it's called Clean Fox. And
there's a few, I think, yeah.
There's a few. Just Google it and find one that works for your country. It's going to clear it up. Get a calendar. I just use a stock calendar that syncs with my phone and with my laptop. Just my iCal.
Or Mac, yeah.
You can get fancy and use Fantastical or Notion calendar or something, but find something that works for you. Honestly, they're all pretty much the same. Notion is a great project manager and a great place to store your notes and manage your projects and checklists and stuff if you want. I think it has a steep learning curve, and so I'd suggest using some of their built-in templates or support a creator who's already using it. If you don't want to be that fancy, just use the notes in your built-in phone. The tricky thing with the notes is they can get out of hand really easily. So something that I found that works for me is to just add a hashtag on the notes. You can easily categorize what each note is. A to-do list is the thing that I use the most. I've settled on TickTick. The more that I use it, the more I hear other people using it. It's very, very simple. It is not exciting or flashy, but it works. I love that you can prioritize tasks and schedule them for later days. If you pick just one of these things, I think your day-to-day in your life is going to get a little bit easier. Everything that I've learned and everything that I'm using, I've taken from other people. Some of my favorite people to watch are Ali Abdaal. He's gone through this whole process and he's done all the hard work for me. And I've just copied many of his systems and adapted them for my own. Another great person is Matt Diavella. He does 30-day experiments and he's trying to optimize his life and become a minimalist. And he's got some great insight on how to simplify your life and what to prioritize. There's also a bunch of one-off people. I don't even know their names, but when I encounter a problem, I jump on YouTube, I jump on the forums, I jump on Google to help solve that. And there's so many smarter people out there who have already solved the issues that I have.
Any books or podcasts that you'd add to that?
I love books and podcasts. I don't read any fiction right now. I'm only reading nonfiction, which is probably a problem. But one of the books that I'm reading right now is Feel Good Productivity by Ali Abdaal. Yeah. His approach is that if you're not having fun or enjoying what you're doing on the day-to-day, on the week-to-week, your productivity is likely going to go down. So he suggests many different experiments to increase the fun while you're working on a task to complete the task and have more longevity.
Greg McEwen, probably just a real valuable book that I read a few years back called Essentialism.
So good.
And that was one that definitely kind of shifted my approach or like way of thinking. But he wrote a second book called Effortless, and it kind of touched on some of those same things. And I think just even as we're kind of bringing this to a close, I think that's such a great place to land. you can be as productive as possible, but you should be having fun. Like, we should be enjoying life in the same point, right? And
I think the whole goal of this is not so that I can work more. It's so that I can free myself up to spend more time doing what I love.
that brings me to like maybe 2 more books that I think bring us all the way back to the framework we talked about, with dreams being kind of the one big bucket at the end. And I think you got to take the time, if you haven't, to just put a little bit of thought into, where are you trying to go? What's the vision? What is the dream? And it makes the hardship, the difficult stuff easier when you're facing the challenges.
When you have a purpose.
Yeah, to face it. But then even in the difficulty, as you're working on your habits, building systems, looking at your goals, it's like, have some fun in the midst of it. Because life can be really hard, but it can also be really beautiful. And there's so much, so much we got to reframe, I think, just with social media, with all the things that get kind of bombarded at us, all the noise, to come back to that. Where are we going? Have a clear vision, make it fun, and do it with friends. Do it with others. Because I think what makes those first two possible, definitely community. Doing, like, if you've got a vision that involves nobody, it's not that fun.
Some of the most fun we've had is when things didn't go right, and it was fun because we were with people.
Yeah, it's true. It's life's a whole lot easier to walk through when we do it together. So, Davey, thank you so much just for being one of the OGs in this community, just being a resource for everybody, and for just sharing more of your story today. Where can we find you?
Davey Gravy on everything. And if you have a question, if you want to know more, send me a message. I'm not perfect, but I hope I can lead you in the right direction.
So that was Davey_Gravy on everything?
That's right.
Thank you so much for spending the last almost hour with us. Hope you guys got a lot of value and learned a few things, because I've learned so much from this guy over the years, and we're just trying to share a little bit of that with you. If you're enjoying the Socality show, it means so much if you can give us a rating on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you're watching. Pop over to YouTube and subscribe, leave a comment. Let Davey know if some of this was helpful, or if you've got any other tips or tricks or tools that you're using that are making a huge difference for you. And if you guys want to learn more from Davey, we did just finish doing a whole mastermind with him. That lives. You can still check that out in the Socality membership. And we've got so many more incredible mentors in our community coming up over the course of this year. We're building a lot to link up the community and building a lot of infrastructure, and it's been really cool already, just hearing stories, seeing people journey together. And at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do, is kind of close the gap, between tools and all that's important, and knowledge is important, but it's often the community and the connection, the people piece, that really brings it all together. And so head over to socality.org, see when the next intake opens, and we'd love to see you in there with us. So have a great day wherever you are, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.